On this episode of Arrows in Motion, we have Jack Nations with us. He's a longtime marketing professional that's moved from the agency side to the client side. We're going to talk about great marketing relationships, how incentives can get misaligned, and what you should look for in a strategic partner.
When you're on an internal team, you're part of the outcome more than any agency really can be. Because we need to succeed as a team. The result needs to be what it needs to be, and we need to make sure we find the right path to it, regardless of whether I have the right answer or I know it in this moment, because my whole success is predicated on the company doing well. For an agency, your whole success is making the client think you're doing a good job. And those are different things. They don't always align.
Misaligned incentives is kind of what most problems boil back to.
Yes. Oh, yes.
You hit on something that I have two blue collar analogies for this. Is one, if you're an agency that has a suite of services you focus on, when every problem is a nail in your mind, the solution's a hammer.
Yeah.
The one I want to ask you more about is agencies. The expectation in generally speaking is like you sign up with an agency and they want you to go and start marketing. Mm-hmm. Like it's just no measure twice. It's a cut. And in corporate, when the stakes are higher internally, there's much more planning and strategy and brand development. Why do you think that the playbook in general for agency engagements doesn't start with more like planning, discovery, brand building, and it's more tactic?
I think that it's based on the market demand. I don't think that small business owners who are not employing a marketing person look at marketing as a thing that they need to invest in for a year or two before they start seeing returns the way that they should. A big company, one that is, say, making hundreds of $millions a year, represents several brands. Sometimes it's even just one brand and they're representing a ton of money. Those companies have built long-term, sustainable, big success off of measuring first. And small business owners they don't, I think, always have the luxury of measuring first. They didn't make, tree trimming service by sitting there and saying, we need to make sure the branding is right on the website before I accept this job in Kirkwood to fix these trees. Like they have to go, and they have also a personal stake attached to it. When you're working in a big corporation, there are shareholders, and those people are the most important part of the organization in a lot of ways, but they're not the ones making the personal decisions about the day-to-day activities because they invested their money into a place that they believe is full of experts who will take care of it. When you're the business owner, you're the expert, you have to take care of it. And so when you take a flyer out, you go out on a limb and say, I'm going to hire this marketing agency because this salesperson told me that I'll give them $1,000, they'll give me $3,000. And if I just give them 10,000, it'll be 30. And if I give them 100, I'll be rich. And then they expect that to come out because they're the ones who are personally investing in it, A, but B, they're used to, I took a chance on this and then it paid off and I did it. So I think that's a huge part of it is agencies are not pushing clients to take the slow approach as often, and I'm speaking generally, but agencies that don't are the ones that are recognizing that small business owners don't have a stomach for it and don't have the patience for it sometimes. So you have to find ways to show returns now to satisfy the commitment that you made to those small business owners.
Yeah, I think like it happens here sometimes. Like I met with a business owner that kind of clicked through the little footer link on one of our client websites, booked a meeting, and they were paying one of like the mega monster agencies that serves home service like $3,500 a month to manage like their Google ads and LSAs, which is just like ugh. Yeah, so 3 months they signed a deal and they're like, God, this is a nightmare. I got to get out. And on the convo, it was just like, I'm not interested at all in just like taking your Google ads and LSAs over. You don't have like a coherent thing. Yeah. You're just like, I'm another quality and reliable HVAC company in Florida. Yeah. And like, it just popped her brain where I would say like, yeah, I'll do the ads out of the gate, but I'm not going to be your retained marketing person unless we like do it the right way, because you're going to be in the same spot in a year as you are now. I can just see it in the future.
Well, that's why I was careful to say not all agencies do this, because that's the type of thing that makes a bigger impact on the small businesses, yes, but it also is what the bigger agencies are looking for. So, or I should say, bigger companies are looking for in their agency partners. I've seen at the corporate level that there are fewer and fewer people inclined to hire the giant firms that are doing everything because they're rip and repeat, and they are trying to show what they think is a systemized, repeatable, we do this for everybody, we're going to do it this way for everybody. And they're not taking a holistic look at a big picture, which is what big companies need, especially more. If you look at a company that's making hundreds of millions of dollars a year, they're they have marketers. They have smart marketers. The smartest marketers I've ever met, no offense to present company, but they're in the big corporate world. We both know Yazir. Yazir's the smartest woman I've ever met in my life. She's the best marketer I've ever met. And she's been working in ed tech in this company. And she thinks about marketing in a way that I can't even get on that same level. She's so smart. She's already there. She doesn't need someone to come and band-aid rip and execute. She can hire people who execute. She's looking for strategic partners to help make her better, to make her decisions easier, and push the company forward in a thoughtful and, I would say, infrastructurally sound way. So bringing it back to the small businesses, that's what small businesses need too. Yeah, there's some more urgency and there's different cash flow considerations. You have different stakeholders, and the when you miss a projection for Q1, the difference isn't that the shareholders are upset in a meeting. The difference is that Timmy doesn't get a bicycle for his birthday because you didn't have enough money, and you're the guy who owns a tree trimming service. So like there is a fundamental difference there, but the needs of the company are the same. And I think approaching these small businesses from the perspective of, like, I could take your money. I could I could take your money. We have a mutual friend, John Carney. John Carney's wonderful. He's smart. He's been the most successful radio host of the last 50 years in St. Louis. And he was looking for a partner with a project. And you and I met with him, and we both said out loud to him, look, we could tell you that you could do this and to point you to some agency that'll take your money. It may not be the thing that you need. And then you're just going to have spent money, and they'll all sit there and tell you that it's the thing you need. But looking at what your whole picture is and building the foundation of what you need is actually more important than the quick wins. And if you're sometimes companies are kind of pull you in and they want the quick wins, and by all means, that makes sense. But I think that the agencies that are sustainable long term are the ones that are looking to build infrastructure with their partners. They're working to grow their partner's business in the most meaningful way, not in the way that hammer equals nail, but in the way that there may be screws here and we may be consulting you with somebody else you should hire to help fix that because we need to build something bigger than that. And the bottom line with that is that if you do something like that, you may lose some clients up front. You may not get them in the first place, but I think you're more likely to build a meaningful relationship with them that lasts a decade than you are to lose them in the first contract deadline, which is what a lot of the you have to do this, I'm the hammer, you're the nail, people end up losing.
I have to tell you a story about John Carney and then jump to a question. So, when we were talking to John Carney, I was talking to some of the younger folks here, and it's an analogy that still gets ridiculed on like a weekly basis. I tried to explain that he was the Kai Cenat of AM radio,
Okay.
like the most popular streamer, and it was just the most boomer, you're old, and just get out of here. Not even close.
I don't know who Kai Cenat is. I'm not a stream
He's
guy.
like a close to a billionaire
Okay.
like streamer. I've just seen him in like passing, and
Yeah.
like don't try and relate anything to us at all.
No Kai Cenat explanations moving
So
forward.
you mentioned, your old boss and sort of like what she wanted out of an agency, and I agree. It was a whoa, this is a very bright individual.
Mhm.
It it represents the clients that we see the best opportunity both in their businesses and like the relationship is people that are looking for more of like an extension of their team and less like a ditch digger or like a task manager.
100%.
Um, look into the future a little bit. Like you were at the agency side when the ground started shifting a little bit as technology started to change,
Yeah.
like post COVID, like things started to feel different.
Yeah,
That's accelerated, I think, in the last couple years.
definitely.
What do you think at a high level, like corporations are looking for in agencies?
Yeah, it's exactly what you just kind of mentioned. It's that strategic partner. And I can't speak for every corporation, but that's the trend that I've seen across. The the reality is that we talked at the beginning of this about the move is when you're working in an agency, you figure out what you're good at, you start to figure out your communication style, then you go work for that company. And you can go to any internal agents or any internal marketing team for a big company and see a media buyer and a content strategist and maybe an organic social person or an organic, you'll see people working on SEO specifically. Those people started in agencies. They already took the practice of buying Facebook ads and learning about how to make them better and then improving them in a company at a much larger scale. They already took that practice and gave it to the agency or gave it to the company. The company doesn't need an agency to come in and tell them how Facebook ads work.
Yeah.
They have someone who manages more money than anybody at the agency has ever managed on one single account, and they do it every month. So they've already got the in-house experts. I think that it is more about strategically building the path forward. The goals inside big companies change. There are huge overarching mission goals and there's growth goals, of course, but quarterly and monthly, the tactics you use to drive one part of the sales funnel are going to change. Sometimes that's based on the market, sometimes it's based on your team, sometimes it's based on a number of things. What the internal teams I've seen are looking for is people who know how to navigate not the platform, but the part of the sales funnel that they're looking to achieve.
Mhm.
So I'll give you an example that company I worked with has hired a handful of small firms where we work with a team of 3 or 4 and maybe 5 or 6. And those people are specializing when they come in on, oh, you guys have this much already established. You're trying to grow by this percent. You've identified that there's a few different ways we can do that. We can help with a couple of those ways. We've come in, we see that, account-based marketing is a thing that you guys need to do. We know how to do that. We're going to come in and we're going to teach you how to do that. And that's an incredibly valuable thing because the nice thing about working with these big corporations, like we talked about earlier, those people are happy to admit when they don't know what to do. I don't know how to go get these people. We'll brainstorm. We'll try to figure it out. The smart thing for us to do would be to go hire somebody who knows how to do it and have them teach us. And that's exactly what big corporations will do. These big companies will come in and say, we know that there's a gap here. We can either hire somebody who's an expert at this, or we can hire a firm to help us get there and then maybe hire somebody long term. The firm is usually the let's test it type of thing and make sure that it works. And that is where I see agencies see success in having long-term relationships with these big companies. The ones that come in and say, we're going to execute on this, we're going to take over this thing for you, but it's just execution level, are gone in 6 months.
Yeah.
But the ones that, and sometimes that makes sense. If it's project-based, like a website build or something, that makes total sense. But if it's something that's an ongoing part of your strategic priorities from quarter over quarter to get to your goal at the end of the fiscal year, you have to come in and provide an actual strategic advantage. And that thing is way more complicated than, well, we know how to make your audiences better on Facebook. Okay, I got a Facebook specialist. I need to know how to do a whole part for this part of our sales pipeline. What do we do here? That's the piece. It's almost like niche marketing in a way. It's not in the traditional sense that you're picking tiny audiences to attack, but you're picking tiny problems to attack that are going to have a bigger impact on the total pipeline.
You hit on something that I talk about in a different way all of the time is like the 10-year agency person's superpower, aside from like resilience and indifference to pain, is like pattern
Aside from
recognition.
a blackened heart.
Yeah, just dead inside. But like you just see so much data and so many things work and not work. You just have this recognition superpower.
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing when you're buying an agency person that's done it, then bringing them internally. It's like, oh, you've seen everything.
Right.
And you know what happens when you walk down every hallway in this. So you're buying a specialist.
Exactly. You're buying someone who is operating as who has operated as a generalist, but because of that has developed specialist skills for sure.
That's like what you hit on too, is I think it's just unsustainable and just not possible anymore to go sell like, hey, I'm going to give you a 12-month contract to do Google ads for 5,000 a month and just expect to get paid on that forever.
Yeah.
Like we had to break our packages out of like the line items and just say we're going to do 3 different levels of work, because it's like we'll put a bunch of resources into Google ads and then it's humming, and then you just have to kind of keep an eye on it and make changes, and then you move on to the next impact thing.
We replaced a small agency that was cheap with an expert as a contractor who helped lower our cost per lead. Great. That's what we were looking for. We were looking for more volume for the same amount of money before we spent more money. And then we spent more on the contractor side for it. But that person killed it. They came up with ways for us to be more strategic. They made suggestions. They pushed back a little bit. They told us when something wasn't going to work. They told us what was going to work. They were proactive and they said, this is the stuff you need to go make for me to do this and make it be successful. And that's it. It's gone swimmingly. But I think you're exactly right. There's no world where you come in and you're an agency who does ad buys for a company and you put, this is the other kind of tough part about the agency world. We talked about people who transition. The people who are at the agency, there's plenty of talented people who are still working at
Oh, hell
agencies.
yeah.
Lots of talented people who still work at agencies. But especially some of these bigger ones, you're still dealing with people who are more junior and less experienced than the people you have on your team. So why am I paying $5,000 a month to people who know less than my team does to do a thing that my team could easily do internally, just because they pretend like their strategy is so much different than every other Facebook ad buying strategy? It's not. It's the same. You need strategic help to push, again, beyond a platform. People who are working isolated platforms, I think those agency models are going to die. I think they have to.
It's something that I don't have any shame about. Like what we're doing is, I think we're providing really premium work, but what we're doing inherently is not hyper scalable. And that's just generally looked down on in the like entrepreneur circle.
Sure.
But I just don't think at this point there's inherent hyper scalability in a service oriented agency anymore. I think it's sort of like a delusional pipe dream.
The reality is that if you're going to work with bigger contracts with bigger companies, they're going to expect more time out of you. And the scalability doesn't apply because you don't need more people. You need more time for your brand and your brain to participate in the activity. So I agree with you there. I think that the scalability of, like you said, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing.
No.
Is what I'm trying to say, because the distinct difference between people who are building something that's scalable, that we can drop this on these types of clients and we can just do their ad buys, is that they are not essential to that business, and that business can replace them very, very easily. But when you become a strategic partner with somebody, when you're again, I'm working with the people who are our strategic partners. So like, I know this based on what my bosses have said and what the decision makers and the stakeholders in our company have said is, if you're just media buying, we can find a cheaper option to media buy. There's always going to be a cheaper option to media buy. But if you're providing strategic value and you're integral to what we do, then we're going to keep coming back to you. An example of that is that I've worked with a designer who's worked at an agency and now he's just doing his own thing, kind of, I would say, semi-retirement. But this guy has a brain for branding projects that I'll never have. And I'm not a designer and I'm colorblind, so that hurts. But this guy has a way of thinking about the concept of a campaign, and he has a process that we follow. And could we have an internal designer make a logo for this or that? Yeah, absolutely. We work with incredible designers, but he's a strategic partner in how we're going to position a new product. And so we come back to him every time. And I think they will until he finally says, okay, no more, I'm done. And that's totally fair. But that's what you have to be to build the sustainability. And I think that even on a local level, the firms that you see becoming incredibly successful, I don't want to name drop on your podcast, but the firms that are successful are the ones that are less transactional and more strategic partners and are relied on like they're an extension of the business, an extension of the team.
I'm going to ask you to explain it like we're five.
Sure.
How do you know if you're a small business that your agency partner or account manager, however you look at them, is a strategic partner? Like, what are you looking for?
That's a great question. You're five. You want to know if you should buy the Nike tennis shoes. You should ask your mom to buy the Nike tennis shoes or the Adidas tennis shoes. Maybe you want to ask your mom for Christmas or ask Santa for Christmas whether you want a Nintendo Switch or the new Xbox. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to go ask your friends, right? Well, my mom said I can have a game system for Christmas, but I don't know if I should get Switch or I should get Xbox. I mean, which one do you have? I have a Switch because I can play Mario and they put Pokemon on it, which my dad says is really cool. Oh, cool. Can I see it? Yeah, here's my Pokemon game. Wow. Looks like it was built before I was born. Yeah, it's fun. And then you ask another friend. Well, I have Xbox and I get to shoot lasers at aliens. Cool. Like, let me shoot lasers at aliens. That's scary, right? But you ask your friends. So if you're an agency owner if you're a business owner and you're looking for a strategic partner in an agency, the first thing you should go do is ask your friends, other business owners that you trust.
Yeah.
And if they tell you, I worked with this agency, they'll tell the fun thing that agencies like to think is that we ask for surveys from these business partners and they all say we're great, so we should be getting more referral business. But I fill out a survey when I go to Antagonist Coffee in Soulard and I say it's great, even if that one time I went there, it took too long to get my coffee, which has never happened. Antagonist is a wonderful cafe. I'm picking on them because they've never done anything wrong and it's very cool there. But you ask your friends about the experience. You ask other business owners about the experience. I think agencies sometimes get this false thought that like, well, we asked them for a survey and they said nice things about us. Why are they not referring business to us? Well, they may not be interested in telling you that they don't like you because that may not be their communication style, right? They may not be super confrontational and they don't care enough to nitpick the little things. But when somebody asks them, would you hire XYZ agency? They say, I don't know. They're fine. We're spending this with them. They say we're getting good returns, whatever. Like I've got other problems to deal with, so I'm not replacing my agency right now. And that answer right there is enough for 5-year-old Jack to say, oh, so you kind of like the Xbox, but not really? Because Scott loves his Nintendo Switch, so I think I'm going to go get that one. It's the same way you should talk to people. If you don't have any friends, you're in kindergarten, you're all alone, you just moved to a new school, you don't know anybody, you need help with something, you don't have any other business owner friends, and you need to make a decision right now. I think that you can look at reviews and all those types of things. Again, agencies are so good at getting people to leave good reviews and removing bad ones. But you can look at how contracts are structured and what they're asking of you. And you guys are like this in a lot of ways. When you're talking about a new introduction, you're saying, look, let's just figure it out. Let's work on something that makes sense for you guys and piece it together. A lot of the solo people, a friend of mine, Mark Cohen, shout out to Mark Cohen. You've met Mark. Yeah. Mark's awesome. And Mark had taught me this when I was still working at the agency world. He's like, my whole thing is that I don't want anybody to feel like they have to stick with me. So yeah, they got to pay me for what I did, but if they don't want to keep paying me to do it, then I'm going to stop making them pay me to do it. That's the kind of guy who is very confident that he's going to do good for your business and that you won't want to leave him.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is like my view of both internal on the agency side and the relationship. It's such a team-based game.
Mhm.
Like the best relationships I think I have with our clients are the ones where we're able to like both pull our curtains back entirely
Yes.
and be more transparent and deliver each other like the aha moments.
Yes.
That's when they're really excited. And
Yeah.
like when we're selling, I'm kind of like, let's just roll month to month. And if you aren't like getting those light bulbs popping when we're doing discovery, then like we'll just give you some assets and roll out.
Yeah.
And that's sort of feel out the team element of it.
100%.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing you can end up in is a business owner, like again, who can't buy Timmy the Switch or the PlayStation or whatever for Christmas because he lost money.
Yeah.
And that money is food on his table. He has to trim those trees. That guy feeling like he's stuck with you is a terrible feeling. And I remember working at the agency. This is part of how I figured out what communication style I preferred and why I liked corporate, because my inclination was, if a client comes in and the results aren't good, is saying, I don't like that these results aren't good. I'm mad. And I should be sugarcoating it and telling you they're not bad. They're only a little bad. And also, it's not my fault. It's probably yours or somebody else's.
Yeah.
But please keep paying
I
me.
can't believe you blew this for me.
I know. And like you screwed up my ads that I was running for you. And I think that I found it so much easier to build a relationship with somebody who trusted me by just being upfront and honest with them about that, regardless of what the internal or external pressures were to do otherwise. If you're just being honest, you're going to probably, at least that's the way I felt about it. And so I think building an agency based on, let's just be a little transparent and talk to each other about this, is going to be fine. That's what translated into the corporate world for me, was saying, look, I don't know how to do this thing. And maybe it's part of my job description, but it's not going to get done if you just give it to me. So I need help. And 99 times out of 100, somebody's saying to you, great, thank you for saying that. We'll help you. Because that's what a strategic partner is. Like, hey, Jack at Jack's agency, or Scott at Arrows Up, I want to do this. And when we talked about our buddy John Carney, he asked us a question and we didn't know the answer, and we didn't lie to him about it, because you shouldn't.
Yeah.
You don't need to. Just that transparency, I think, if you're a business owner and you're looking for an agency, looking for someone who's going to be transparent with you, even when it's a little ugly, that's the single biggest thing, is find somebody who's just going to be honest with you about whatever it is, because that's somebody you can trust and who's actually invested in the success of your business.
I did want to do a shirtless, like a billboard with me shirtless that just said transparent marketing. And everyone said like absolutely super duper no.
Yeah, at least I think we could get you one of those like translucent ponchos that you could wear, and then it's like a little blurry.
Yeah, I'm on the poncho trajectory for sure.
I think that I'm surprised you're not wearing a poncho right now.
It's interesting, like the kind of communication model that we talk about here and like over at Dashmades, because it's kind of the same type of thing.
Sure.
Is like have the hard conversation right now instead of next week or next month, whether it's like expectation setting or showing bad results and iterating, or like asking for way more money if the results are great.
Yeah.
It's always like, people aren't doing that often enough. I've had enough times where I've said the thing and it's like, wow, that was really out of pocket and unexpected, because I don't think that that's the expectation.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like, man, I'd rather blow a relationship up before there's a problem.
Yes. I think the reality is that there will be a problem if you don't talk about it, if you risk blowing it up now when there's minimal damage. That's better than, again, Timmy not getting the Switch and Christmas because you kept taking money from a business owner who relied on that money and you weren't giving them a return and you didn't talk about it.
You know, it's funny that like, I think when we talk about the stakes in small business and like corporate, as bigger or smaller. When I look at small business, sometimes it was a very specific conversation I had with an HVAC owner like 5 years ago,
Mhm.
where he like had a bad experience with somebody and said like, I'm never spending money on marketing again. And it was just like his dad started the business. And I
Mhm.
was like, Jesus, like a nightmare experience can have like generational impact on
Yeah.
this. So
Again, it especially with small business owners, that's the case. It's probably a little bit less the case for a big company because they have more people involved in the decision making and there's other needs, so it's not apples to apples. But when you're talking to small business owners and they got hurt on marketing, it can turn them off from marketing when marketing could make a really big impact on their livelihood, on their business.
yeah.
And it's tough to watch happen, but you see it happen. That, well, I worked with X agency and they completely screwed me over. They didn't get any results, or they lied about this, or they lied about that, and they took my money. And then I tried to leave, and they told me I had to pay a bunch of money, and then they took me to court, and it's a whole thing. And it's like, yeah, I wouldn't trust marketers either. But that's why it's important for agencies that are invested in actual small business growth to be flexible and to allow people in. The analogy I've made about this is like when I met my wife, she had just broken up with a guy who was a loser and wasn't as cool as me, of
Obviously.
course. And she had some, it's the same thing with everything. I had, been in relationships too. And I had these preconceived notions, or she had these preconceived notions that I was going to be upset about a certain thing, or think this way about a certain thing, or be scared of this or that. And I was like, oh, I see how you are so scared of that because of how that's your experience. But we've only been dating for a short while and we're going to take it nice and easy and everything's going to be okay. And once you're with me for a year, it'll be longer than you were with that guy. And you're going to see, oh, now that 50% of my experience in dating is great with you and the other 45 was just the fluke with this jerk, then you start to establish a little bit more trust in relationships in general. It's the same type of thing with an agency. Like, you don't have to sit here and commit to me for 4 years. We don't have to get married. Why don't you just let me help you? Why don't we just hang out and I'll try to help you and we'll be flexible and we'll make it work. And over time, I think you're going to see that I'm not like other marketers. Most importantly, not all marketers are the same and not all of them are bad. There's plenty of good work to be done that can really help your business. And there are people who care about your business. And we're just going to take it slow until you believe that too.
You know what? Also, like one agency might be bad for one person and great for another person, just like any relationship.
Absolutely. There are people who work with agencies that love the work they do for one reason or another that other companies absolutely hate. And we've experienced that too on the corporate side, where part of our business or people in our business are working with an agency and we work with them and we're less enthused, or vice versa. And it's just based on what people need. Different business owners, or even again, executives in a corporate space, need different things. Being a good strategic partner is about understanding what those things are. Can I help to, achieve those goals for you, or help you achieve those goals? And if I can't, can I be honest with you about that fact and step away? Because sometimes I think that an agency would be better off if they're working with, for instance, two different arms of one company. And in one arm, they're saying, we're killing it, everything's going good. This one, they're unsure. They're probably better off saying, I don't think we can help you the way we're helping them because they're doing something different and you need this.
Hmm.
What I'd love to do is refer you to a friend of mine or this type of thing, or we can help you vet the next person, but I don't think you should pay us because I don't want to jeopardize my relationship with these people because I made you mad by doing a bad job over here just because I could make money.
Yes, because the bad job over there, there's like all sorts of conversations that are happening.
Right. That's the other thing. You meet with them for 1 hour a week. They work together for 40.
Yeah.
So they get a lot more exposure to each other than they do you. And it doesn't take much for person in section B of the company to tell the people at the top of the company that this agency stinks. And then they say, you should get rid of that agency to section A.
Yeah.
And Section A is like, okay, well, I don't like them more than I like my job. So I'm certainly going to get rid of them if my boss tells me
No,
to.
you don't hear the whole story. It's like I'm the type of we go out to eat a ton.
Mhm.
And I'm the type of like visitor where you could serve me a bowl of broken glass and I'll say like it was great and tip 25% and just
And
won't
then
go
never come
back.
back. Yeah, I'm the
Yeah.
same way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think that that's a lot of how like the account managers feel when it's like, God, I talked to the person, it was great. And they just canceled out of the blue.
They just canceled out of the blue. And I think that it's misalignment to always blame that on an account manager who's responsible for the relationship. Again, the reality is that sometimes I've heard they can't just cancel out of the blue. There had to be science, and you're just inept at reading human emotion.
No, dude.
That's not how it works. Sometimes it has nothing to do with your team, and it has to do with the situation of what the business needs. The other reality of being a strategic partner and being there for what people need is that sometimes they don't need you anymore. And being in an agency, you have to be okay with some level of churn.
No, I mean, the reality is, especially when you're dealing with small businesses, like if you're pouring gas on their business and bringing leads and they lose their sales manager or something, that is a real business problem.
Real business problem, 100%. Or if they have a huge customer service issue or
Yeah.
some type of, like the agency that, what was the company at the Coldplay concert? They were
Oh,
called
yeah.
like Astronomer.
Yeah.
Like, okay, when they fired their paid ad agency, do you think that the CEO of that agency should have come in and been like, how'd you screw up the Astronomer account? They're like, it's not my fault the CEO of that company was doing this. That has nothing to do with the agency.
Yes.
And the agency can't even come back and say something like that. They're just saying, we can't be so visible right now. We have to stop ads. So we're going to stop working with you until we figure out what the heck's going to happen with our brand. And that's a perfectly acceptable answer for somebody to stop working with you. It's not, Mitch's fault because he was running the Astronomer account.
To be fair, it probably
It
was.
might have been Mitch's
Yeah.
fault. I think he bought the tickets.
No, you're absolutely right. It goes the same ways. Like there are some situations that you're just like not ready to do marketing. Like you
Mhm.
think you need growth, but you need like ops consulting really.
100%.
Or if you've had your whole systems blow up, like getting a bunch of new customers isn't going to help you. You're just going to piss off more people.
I have an example from my time at the agency where we worked with, I'll call it a home services business. And I asked the the owner when we first met about access to their CRM. And he told me that he keeps all of his invoices in a bucket in his office.
Wow, we
And I was like, oh boy, that is something that an analyst can parse through and type into a computer for sure. But that's a thing that they needed. Maybe they didn't. They were doing just fine. But that's not because they didn't have Facebook ads. It has nothing to do with it. And if you're a strategic partner and you're looking for what they need, like you said, sometimes my job is to come in and tell you, we don't need to turn on ads. We don't need to run SEO. We need to fix your website. We need to completely redo it. Or you need to fix this issue with your customer service because it'll take me years to dig out of a problem that you could just change one thing and it'll fix it by itself. Like there's a bunch of, again, being a strategic partner and trying to help them understand what they need is bigger than delivering them services.
Yeah, I think you hit on everything that I'm kind of observing. Obviously, like I've got a lot of friends that still work across a handful of agencies,
Sure.
here and elsewhere.
Sam.
And we're all talking
Mhm.
about kind of just the changing meta of how we interact with each other.
Right.
And it does feel like it's going to be hard. We talk internally about maybe, we use a lot of underlying technology to
Mhm.
like give like as a force multiplier for our people.
Sure.
And maybe down the road, we break something off and have like a software driven solution for a small
Sure.
problem that scales.
Of course.
But like, I just do not think right now is the time to be thinking about like, how do I build an army of juniors and try to go to the moon?
I think trying to go to outer space with an army of juniors is a quick way to realize that you can't breathe in space and your rocket is going to explode. Um, Tom Gotti at Black Twig is all helpful consultant based.
Yeah.
And he has built a 25-year career that is super successful. And like when you met with him, they were not delivering what we would consider baseline essential service. When I met him, he wasn't.
No.
And I met him when I was working at a digital agency and he referred a client to the company I was working at. Um, and this is like in 2017 or something like that. And then he happens to be friends with my mom. So
Yeah.
we've hit it off. But he looked at it like, I'm just trying to be helpful to these people. And if I can be helpful to them, that's what I'm going to do. Even if it means it's not more money in my pocket. Like I built a relationship with them and
Yeah.
that's my goal. The people who own Digital Strike, I have a cousin who works there. Great agency who's focused on,
Is
they're
that
in Webster.
Chris? Yeah, Chris. I see
Chris,
him post online. He seems super sharp.
he's very sharp,
Yeah.
but they have a like strict, we aren't taking on too many clients rule
Yeah.
because they are focused on making sure everybody is as happy as they can be, and their retention and their steady growth, but sustainable growth is reflected in that. Like they're just trying to be helpful. The thing that people I think don't see is that reputational effect is catastrophic. We talked about, I'm going to go ask my buddy Scott and my buddy Mitch. Scott has a Switch and Mitch has an Xbox. And if at a point everybody has Xbox and everybody is tired of it, nobody's going to be buying Xbox anymore. They're going to get sick of it and they're going to get rid of it. And then Xbox is going to go out of business.
Dude, I think you hit something interesting on reputation. So like I know Tom.
Yeah.
They just had a milestone anniversary on the
Yeah.
1st.
Mhm.
I ran into him and his wife at Adriana's on a hill. Tom has a great sandwich and salad order.
That's awesome.
But like I know him and I know they've got a great reputation. I don't know Chris at
Mhm.
Digital Strike and I don't know any clients of Digital Strike.
Me neither.
But I know they've got a great reputation.
Yeah.
Because that's just how St. Louis works.
Yeah, they do. Right. My cousin, Lucy Schweiss, who's a great marketer and is doing excellent work over at Digital Strike. I don't know a whole lot about it because I don't know who their clients are necessarily, but they have an incredible reputation around town. And when people ask me about, we're looking for this type of work, the handful of names I spout off, they're in it. And I've never met Chris. And my cousin doesn't work in sales, but like I know the people that work over there. I know at least a couple of them and I've seen their reputation and it's incredible. They're a person you can trust. They're the type of people you should go work with.
Yeah, I mean, they're proof and like what we're doing is proof that like you can't build a business off of referrals because there's so few people that get you to do that like enthusiastic.
Yeah.
You need to talk to these guys. They gave me an aha.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing I kind of want to close with is the reality of like everyone has different tastes and different relationships. Like I've been in a college relationship where we were like screaming and keying cars. Like I was the recipient, obviously, but
Sure.
like
Of which one?
the keying and the screaming.
Oh, okay.
I don't do either of those things.
Okay.
But like now I'm in a relationship where there's no screaming, there's no keying, there's no voice raising in
Right.
12 years. And the person that was doing the keying, they're in a non-keying relationship too.
That's right.
So it's like
There's nothing wrong with that person going off and finding a better fit for them.
yes, it's okay to hear a referral, meet somebody and go like, you know what? They're just like not my type of character. And just like go interview the few agencies that you hear that have a good reputation, trust your gut, and who's the person you're going to be very comfortable being very transparent with.
I think that if you're looking at every business as a prospective fit and you say we should be the better option for everybody, then you're not being honest with yourself about what you're actually good at, and you're not being honest about what's going to be best for these businesses. And if you want to make money and then, not sustainable money, I should say, then sure, you can sit there and go and tell everybody that you're the best. But I think that it's happier on both sides to find a space in the middle where you're certainly stretching and trying to expand and do the right thing, but you're doing it in a way that puts the clients at the end. I heard recently this speech from Steve Jobs where he was talking about how like there were people who were so upset with the Apple products, computers that he was putting out. And I'm not a huge Steve Jobs fan by any means, but he talked about how like when you're trying to build something and you're trying to be successful, you have to start with the customers at the end.
Yeah.
And not sit and say this product has to fit on top of your business. So if you're an agency and you're selling one or two or three essential different offerings and you're like, these have to fit into every business no matter what's going on with that business, you're building a computer that you don't care if the consumers know how to use, and then you're getting mad at your marketing team for not figuring out how to sell the computer to people who don't want
Dude,
it.
I did a chamber, like a chamber of commerce speech, and one of the slides I had was you don't find customers for your product, you build products for your customers. I think
Bingo.
that's jobs. Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. And it's the same way when you're dealing with SaaS or when you're just dealing with marketing services or whatever. Even like I worked in ed tech, I worked in healthcare marketing. Um, all of those things start with the real people at the end who need something and you finding a way to deliver it. Not just because you can make money selling something. That's not a that's not a reason for customers to buy from you.
Even if I like money.
I like money too.
Uh,
Um, but I love our customers more.
Jack, I'm going to leave you with this. Are you ever going to go back to the agency world?
I don't foresee going back to the agency world, and the reason that I don't is because I'm very happy in the space that I found myself in, working internal, working on projects in that way, getting to, when you're working for a company, you definitely get to be much more customer focused. Um, so I like that. I like the leaders I've gotten to work with, and I'm pretty happy in this space. I'll tell you this: if there wasn't a thing for me to go back into the agency world, it would have to be on a small thing, and it would have to be in a way that is so client service focused. And I don't mean from the perspective of sending them things in the mail and wishing them happy birthday, but like building something that people need and building something that's actually going to help businesses. Yeah, that's an exciting thing. Or not being oriented around numbers exclusively, but being more oriented around actual service and actual outcomes for these business owners. That's something I could see, but I'm very happy in the corporate world. I found my communication style. I've been very fortunate to work with really, really smart marketers out here too. And I think that's another tiny little misconception is that in the agencies, a lot of people think that the internal guys are the bad guys. The internal guys are very often very, very talented and used to be agency people as well. And they know what they're doing. I've learned a lot from them. I'm pretty happy on the internal side.
Loved agency Jack. I think I might like corporate Jack even more.
Well, I love all versions of Scott if it makes you feel better, whether you're getting your car keyed or not. I still appreciate it.
Well, when the cameras die, we'll hug.
Yeah, that sounds good.